talking about rapid intensification, I want to talk about Bob Woodward. Bob Woodward has been in the news lately, wrote a book called Fear, Trump in the White House. There's been some back and forth over the last day or two, and I think it really hit a high point yesterday when Bob Woodward said, and he's a journalist. I mean, he's a writer, he's a reporter. He, of Watergate fame, along with Carl Bernstein, kind of made a name for themselves, and I really believe that the legacy of Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein is journalists can become celebrities, and celebrities can make a lot of money. I really believe that's their legacy. You know, the idea or notion that a journalist is going to that profession to make a lot of money just isn't what most believe until Woodward and Bernstein broke the Watergate story, became national celebrities, and figured out a way to cash in on that celebritydom, and they've done, I would imagine, amazingly well for themselves, and they are absolutely a part of the resistance. They make no bones about it. Woodward and Bernstein are parts of the resistance. Carl Bernstein has been a little bit wacky in his offerings and proposals in regards to Trump and the White House, but Woodward wrote a book, and over the weekend, I read a couple of reports in the Wall Street Journal where General Mattis and General Kelly denied that they told Woodward what Woodward professes they told him in the book. And yesterday, Woodward said, well, that's just a couple of political appointees trying to hold on to their job. I'd like to know where this goes from here, because Mattis and Kelly don't impress me to be political hacks who say whatever necessary to hold on to their job. Is Woodward telling the truth? I have no idea. I don't know that we'll ever know whether Woodward is telling the truth. But I think the interesting part of this story, Rev, is something that you and I touched on yesterday, and that is the fact that there is a culture in American politics, in the White House. I mean, Donald Trump won the election in November 2016. He assumed control of the White House in January 2017, and he didn't replace everybody because I would imagine it's probably kind of hard to replace everybody in the functioning body that is the White House staff. But Trump has people within that organization who are absolutely and totally insubordinate. And you were talking about the Lisa Page, Peter Strzok text message that was released a couple of days ago. It's starting to really make its name known in the news about the DOJ and the FBI and the leaking of information. They had a plan. The leak strategy. Yeah, the leak strategy is how it's referred to. And I think that's Strzok's word or Page's word, not mine. They had a leak strategy. And this is after Donald Trump got elected.
Yeah, this was from April 10th of 2017. I'll just read the text here. Peter Strzok to Lisa Page. Quote, I had literally just gone to find this phone to tell you I want to talk to you about media leak strategy with DOJ before you go. Unquote.
So there's a very organized effort within our federal government to rid itself, purge itself, cleanse itself of Donald Trump. And I want to go back to what I said yesterday. And this is why I think this is so very important. There's an element in our society that celebrates the writing of the op-ed. You know, I am a resistor. I'm a senior official within the Trump White House, and I'm proud to proclaim my resistance via the New York Times. Now, the New York Times, a little bit shadowy for me for them to write an article or an op-ed by an anonymous figure within the federal government. I said yesterday, I'll repeat it again today, they don't have the authority to do that. It's your job to serve at the pleasure of the president. Ari Fleischer said it better than I. Ari Fleischer said, I would not work for Donald Trump because I don't believe in what his agenda stands for. But if I did take the job, it's my personal responsibility to serve at the pleasure of the president. And we've got a group of people, we've got a universe of people who believe they are removed from any of that scrutiny. It doesn't apply to them. They can do whatever they choose to do because they are the ones that know what is in the best interest of the American people. We didn't know. We made a big mistake when we elected the guy we elected. Because if you think about it, give me something Trump has done in regards to his agenda that he didn't say he was going to do on the campaign trail. The American public voted for a guy to go disrupt the system, to turn over the apple cart. Well, I mean, all of us want that done. We want the apple cart turned over. We want the system disrupted. They don't. Why? because their very livelihoods depend on that. And I said it yesterday, I'll say it again. When you talk about the Bob Woodwards of the world, the Carl Bernsteins of the world, the Chuck Todds of the world, the George Stephanopoulos of the world, the David Brookses of the world, all of these bureaucratic agencies that have been so infiltrated with these careerists and these elitists and these establishment figures to some degree, the majority of people in Congress, they believe that it's their right, their ordained or God-given right to choose how we govern this country, that you and I don't have any say-so about it. And I said yesterday, and I'll say it again, they are not defending our rights. They are not defending the Constitution. They are not defending the Declaration of Independence. They are not defending government or better government. They are not defending the will of the people. They are defending one thing and one thing alone, and it is the preservation of the power base that is Washington, D.C. That's all they're worried about. That's all they're concerned about. And Donald Trump is the most legitimate threat they've had to deal with in many, many, many years. And as a result of that, they have formed this resistance that is trying to overthrow this president based on hyperbole and innuendo and all these other sorts of things that have not been very substantiated. There is a thought, and I'm kind of one of the people that believe this. There is a thought that the Woodward book, the Bernstein reporting, some of the leaking of information, there is a thought that has all of a sudden become very intense because the Russian investigation is almost done. And they're going to find out there is no collusion, there is no conspiracy, that there were a couple of lousy, no-count, sleazy guys who did some things they shouldn't have done back in 2006, 7, and 8, before Donald Trump ever became a political figure. But I want you to clearly understand that, because I think this is so worthy of note. This is a big deal. You're seeing what people will do to make sure they maintain control of our nation's capital. Steve Bannon said it. I wish I could find it again. If you believe, he said this 2 years ago. Rev, I think he said it about 3 years ago. I think he said it at about the same time Trump announced his candidacy or became a relevant political force. Steve Bannon said, if you believe the elites, the establishment, the ruling class, the proper class, the Woodwards of the world, the Bernsteins of the world, the deep state. See, I don't believe they're a deep state anymore, because deep state means they're kind of hiding in the shadows. I think they're very out there. I don't think they're ashamed of it. I think they wear this with a badge of honor. But if you believe these people are going to give you your country back without a hell of a fight, you've got another thing coming. And I think that's exactly what we're dealing with. I think we're seeing it up close and personal. I think Woodward is orchestrating with members of the deep state. I think Bernstein is working hand in hand with certain entrenched careerists within the White House, and they're trying to do everything they can to run this president out of office or convince us that he's not worthy of reelection. And this is the battle. I mean, this is the battle royale. This is not, as I've said, this is not, big government versus small government. This is not lower taxes versus higher taxes. That's a part of it. I mean, it's obvious that Trump is a deregulator and a low-tax kind of guy. He's very much a business person, and he believes economic growth is the way we generate a better America. And the way we get to that economic growth is deregulating the economy, taking some of the restrictive forces from EPA and taxing and whatnot, and allowing the private sector to be liberated and perform at full velocity. We all benefit when that comes around, when that happens. But this is not about, and I know Richard said he disagreed with me. I still believe I'm right here. This is not about political ideology. This is not about, the debate of liberalism or the debate of conservatism or the debate of libertarianism. This is not that. This is a universe of people, a subset of people who have self-appointed themselves controllers and masters of the universe that you and I have a right to. It's our government. It's clear the government belongs to us. We elected somebody to go do a job, and they're hell-bent on not allowing him to do that job. Not only are they hell-bent on not allowing him to do that job, They're hell-bent on creating barriers and obstacles to disallow him from doing that job. And if indeed there is somebody in the White House who has hidden information or manipulated information in a way that has not allowed Donald Trump to have full authority of the information available, there should be some charge of criminality.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple. I'm not a legal mind. I'm not a legal scholar. I don't know what the implications or consequences are when you do things like that. But this government belongs to the American people. The American people made a very conscious decision in November of 2016 that we wanted the most unconventional candidate imaginable to run our federal government. I understand that you folks in Washington don't like that. If I was a creature of Washington, I wouldn't like it either. But that is what the will of the people was. And to me, the most powerful force in American politics, if we are indeed a democracy or a representative republic, has to be the will of the people. And the will of the people spoke loudly and clearly during the Electoral College. We sent somebody there to do a job. Let him do the job. It's not, if you don't like what he's doing, resign and go find you something else to do. If you find him disgusting or you can't support his programs or agenda, resign and find you something else to do. And I'll tell you what you can do. In case you've been paying attention, you can resign and become a pundit. You can resign and be on CNN every day. You can resign and be on MSNBC every day. You can resign and have a permanent position at the Washington Post. You can run. There are a million
Well, I think
opportunities.
this anonymous coward should probably run for president because they're the ones that think they should be making the decisions.
Well, and they're trying. No, Rev, they're not just the ones that think they should be making the decisions. They're ones that are trying to make the decisions. And you know this as well as I. If you believe this anonymous author of the op-ed for the New York Times is kind of a lone wolf, you're crazy. There's hundreds of these people in our federal government. There's thousands of people in our federal government, and they're not executing the will of the people. I don't give a damn what they think about Donald Trump. I could care less. It doesn't matter to me if you hate him, love him, find him disgusting. That's your right. That's your you have every personal right at that opinion. But you are employed by the taxpayer. You work for the voter. And the voter said, here's what we want done. And here's the guy we want to do it. End of debate. There is no more debate to be had there. You serve at the pleasure of the President of the United States. We chose somebody that you didn't like. And if your disdain for him is so intense, then resign and find you something else to do. And I'll assure you, there are a million liberal outlets out there that will find you something to do, and your voice can be heard, and they'll figure out a way to compensate you. But you're working against the very people who pay your salary, and that's not what this government is about. You cannot undermine nor thwart the effort of a duly elected American president when you serve at the pleasure of that president. Do you give him advice? Do you disagree with him? Do you give him differing? Of course you do. Absolutely you do. You're absolutely entitled to that. But when the president says we're going this way, it's your job to create an agenda that goes that way, or get out of the door. Leave town. Find you something else to do. And the way the leftist media are celebrating this anonymous coward is unbelievable to me. I mean, what do we do? Just imagine for 1 second. I know we got a call. We'll get to the call. Imagine for 1 second if somebody wrote an article in the Wall Street Journal tomorrow when Barack Obama was president saying, this guy's not ready to be president. This guy doesn't know his butt from third base. This guy's an academic. This guy's a theorist. This guy's a college professor who has no real-life experience or skill to lead me to believe that he should be the president. I don't care what the people said. Can you imagine the outcry of the media if that were to happen? I mean, just put the shoe on the other foot. And that's what we're talking about, the height of hypocrisy. To believe that somebody could write an op-ed, and I use the Wall Street Journal because they're a little bit more conservative than the Times or the Post, but if the Wall Street Journal put that in there, can you imagine the outcry and uproar of the American public when they find that out? And I would be one. I would absolutely be one. Because the public voted for this guy and his agenda, and he's got a right to implement his agenda, and you as an employee, as a subordinate, you have no right whatsoever to thwart not the president's agenda, but the will of the American people. That's what government does. It serves the best interest and at the will of the American